Well, good afternoon, everyone. Are you able to see the screen? And let me know, is my voice clear? Can you hear me properly, ma? Sridhar, you said no. Regarding? Okay, Sridhar. Okay, good afternoon. Shall we begin the session? Okay. Okay, all of you get the screen. So today we are going to start new unit number 3, inheritance, virtual functions and polymorphism. So the first part of your second part deals with virtual function and polymorphism. So we'll first complete the first part and then we'll come across the second part. So I hope anybody have an idea on inheritance. Let me know before we continue. Little bit, okay. Okay, maybe the definition good. Okay, guys, hope you know the definition and little regarding the inheritance. So we'll come across each and everything in details. That means what is an inheritance, why we require inheritance, and what are the different types of inheritances. And we'll come across each and everything in detail. So now these are the various contents where we come across. First one is defining the class hierarchy. That means when we come across inheritance, we will deal with a hierarchy of the classes. What do you mean hierarchy? It's nothing but the level. That means when you come across in the second unit, you have defined a class and in the main you created an object and try to access the properties and methods of your class. Now what we are going to do, in addition to the single class, for example, if you are having a demo as a class and in main we are creating an object for your demo class and we try to access it. Now what we are going to do here, we may have a level of classes. That means the first level example will take it as demo 1 and in second level you may have it as demo 2 and in main I can access the both demo 1 and demo 2 using an object which is created for your second level of your class. So why you are going to define a class like that and what is the requirement? and how you have to define the what do you mean by class hierarchy will come across. And in that way, how many different forms of inheritances you are having, that is based upon hierarchy of the classes and based upon the requirement, how many types of inheritances we are having will come across. And so when you are dealing with your inheritances, mainly we come across two types of classes that are nothing but base class and derived class. So how you will define a base class and how you will define a derived class will come across with an examples. And now, so coming to your base class members, how to access the base class members in your derived class, and how to access within all the things within a main will come across that. Now, then will come, each and everything is related to each and these three concepts are related to each other. That means it related to the programming, how you define the base class, derived class, and how we try to access the properties, and we try to provide the access modifiers for that, like private, protected, public, and how we try to restrict the properties in order to access in the below level classes like derived classes will come across each and everything. Apart from that, we'll also try to deal with the constructors and destructors. And in suppose if you are having constructors in base class and constructors in derived class, along with that, if you are having destructors, now what is the way of accessing? Is there any specific way of accessing the properties of it? We'll try to come across. And next, the last concept of your inheritance is virtual base class. So can I make my base class as virtual? Actually, what is that concept will come across? So these are the just overview. We'll come across each and everything in depth. So once we come across. So now, before getting into the concept, now the term inheritance. So as we are dealing with real-time projects, now actually where can I get some real-time examples related to inheritance where actually will be using it? Anybody can give me an examples? Real-time example. Yeah. I'm asking you in terms of application point of view. Okay, you are giving the definition itself. I'm asking related to the application point of view, where you will be using the inheritance in your computer science or anything. Recursion. Guys, 167 students are there and I'm not getting the answers from you people. Okay guys, I think you are. So let me go up. Automobiles, code functionality and fast implementation time. See, what I asked you, what is a real-time application of inheritance? Suppose if you take any software product. Now, suppose if you take any software product or any software. Now, first if you are building a software, then you might be developing it from the scratch. And later on, suppose if I would like to, now one version of software will get released, and later on again another version will get into the existence and it will get released. Yes or no? After some certain period of time. What you are doing in the next, what you can observe in your next version, some of the unnecessary properties will be removed and some additional features will be added to the existing product and it will be released as a newer version. So suppose if you are releasing the new version again and again for a similar kind of product, then are you developing it from the scratch? No, you will not develop from the scratch. So what you are going to do, the existing product will be there and whatever unnecessary things are there from that, suppose if any unnecessary things are there, you try to remove it. If not, you will keep that as it is and whatever the additional requirement is there, that will be added to the existing thing and we'll try to build a new product out of it or new version out of it. So this, how you are making it possible with the help of inheritance concept. Okay, this is one of the example. So it can be taken in any type of software or any type of product. You are not developing it from the scratch. Only you are trying to add the necessary things in order to have the modifications for the new one, already existing thing. So this is one of the example of your inheritance. So now, as we will not get into the total real-time project and have the development of your concept here, we'll come across small little examples and we'll try to build up the inheritance. Now let's go. Now see here. Now, generally, all types of object-oriented programming languages, like C++, Java, Ruby, Smalltalk, all types of languages will be having the feature of inheritance, and each and every language will be implemented in their own specific way. That means it might be the way of implementation of the inheritance might be different from language to language, but this particular feature will be available in almost all the object-oriented programming languages. And now what you are going to do in this, now it is a feature of your object-oriented language that allows classes or objects to be defined as extensions or specifications. Just now I told you, suppose if you are having a class, let me take an example. Now just now, suppose if you are having a software or if I am having some class, now I would like to have a new thing out of this. I am not going to disturb this. Just I would like to extend the properties of the existing thing and add the new properties. That means what I am going to do, I am just trying to add the extension of the one class to the another class. Okay. Now let me show you. You can see this will be the figure. This might be the existing thing. See, suppose if you are having here, suppose this is an existing, like you can take it as a base class. Okay. Now what I am trying to do, I can create one more. That means you are trying to have an extension of the property. Okay, just what you are trying to do, you are trying to have the extension. You are not going to disturb the final product what is there. Whatever the extension I would like to have, I can create one more class and add the extension. That you are calling it as a derived class. Okay. This is already existing thing, and now if I would like to add any new thing to this can be added as an extension for this base class, and here itself we are going to provide the specifications whatever that are required for your existing product. So now what you can see do here. Right. So now what you can do. Now this particular class, that means you try to extend the existing class to your derived class. Now this derived class can access all the properties properties of your base class, and in addition, whatever the new things I have defined in your derived class, that can also be available in this particular class. That means if you are having a base class, only in the first level you are having the existing product. In the second level, in derived class, it contains the properties of base as well as a derived. So it can be more specialized. That means whatever you require, still you are having the specifications here based upon the requirements of the next individual product or the final of the customer, or whatever, in order to fulfill the requirements of your customer. Okay, so now this is our second point. And now when you are going to when will be the inheritance useful? Suppose if you are trying to build any similar kinds of products, similar kinds of objects, then inheritance will be useful. And now how you are going to define? Suppose if you are going to define some similar types of objects, then this might be some so in the next example I'll tell you. So now here this base class can be you can define it as an archetype. What do you mean by archetype? It can be defined as some type of model by which you can have so many derived classes. For example, let's go with an example. See here, few examples so that you can understand archetype very easily. Suppose let's take different types of shapes like squares, triangle, circle and hexagon. So each and everything is related to your shapes. Yes or no? Square, triangle, that means only 2 sides, 3 sides, circle and hexagon. So each is defined with some certain, you call it as a 2D shapes. Now what I can do, now shape is a common thing, and the next level is nothing but your square, triangle, circle and hexagon. Now shape you can define as a base class, which serves as an archetype for your next level of classes like shape, square, triangle, circle and hexagon. Okay, so this you can take it as an archetype. That means which is a common functionality available for several different specialized classes that you will be placed or you will be grouped together in a common place. You call it as a base class. So here you can modify this thing, like here base class can be like sorry, 1 minute. This base class can be a shape. It's not typing. 1 minute. This base class can be shape, and this derived you can take it as either triangle, or you can also define it as one more thing called as, this can be one more derived class. Okay, one more derived class where you can have it as square and so on. So this can be, that means the common properties like each and everything might be having width and height. So the common properties you can place within the shape, and in suppose if you go with a triangle, the area, suppose I would like to calculate area of each and every 2D shape, then the specific properties I can place within the derived class. Now shape can contain the common properties like width. I can define variables like, what are the variables? Width, height. Okay, and properties like set width, set height. That means I have to set width and height in order to calculate the area. Okay, now coming to the triangle, here I can calculate the area. For example, if it is a triangle, the area of the triangle will be different formula, and suppose if you are dealing with square, the area of the square will be different. So each and every specific 2D shape will be having the own set of formula for its calculation. This can be a specialized one, and this can be the generalized one. Okay, is it clear? Are you following, guys? you able to follow? We'll come across with an example. Don't worry, each and everything I will explain with an example. Till now, are you following the theory? So, now, this is nothing but. So, similarly, you are having different set of examples. Like, suppose I can take my base class as an employee, which serves as an archetype. That means it is nothing but the base class, and the derived class can be a faculty or admin or office assistant or technical support. It can be the derived classes. Each and everything will be having the own set of properties and methods again. Okay. Similarly, you can take vehicle as a base class, and the derived class might be either car, truck, motor vehicles, buses, and so on. So, why you are going to have this type of class hierarchy? So, here is a definition or you can see. Suppose if I would like to have the same set of information in each and every class. Like in square, I would like to have some let's take this employee example. It will be easy for you to understand. Suppose if I take employee, now suppose if I take faculty will be having an employee ID, employee name, employee designation, salary, and so on fields. Okay, suppose if I take administrator also, he will be having same employee ID, employee name, salary, designation, and so on. And so on. If you take office assistant, he will be also having the same set of fields. Now, if you take the technical same set of fields. So, instead of replicating the same set of data in each and every class, in faculty, administrator, office assistant, technical support, what I am trying to do? I am trying to identify the common things in each and every class. I try to place it in a class like super class, one level above, so that it can be accessed by several different classes. Okay, that's what I told you just now. Instead of replicating, that means that suppose if I take employee, instead of defining in all different classes, what I am trying to do, I have tried to define a class called as employee, in which it contains the basic information like employee ID, employee name, designation, salary, and in next level, what I try to do, that means derived class. That means this employee can be any person. He can be either faculty or admin or office assistant or technical staff or any other thing. So, this common theme I am trying to place within an employee class, and in the next level, I try to give specifications. Suppose if he is a faculty, he will be teaching. Yes or no? If he is an admin, he might collect the information regarding joining in the college and so on. So each and every person will be having some specification based upon his designation type. That particular specific information will be placing in the specification class, specialized class or derived class. Now faculty, you will be having some specializing like teaching, next conducting exams and so on. Now admin, he might be taking care of admissions, giving some biodata forms or something else. So that related specific things you will be placing in the next level. Additional, so that he can access information which is present in the employee class, and he can have its own set of properties. Okay, this type of provision is available here. So now you can read these lines. When this type of relation exists among classes, it is more efficient to create a class hierarchy rather than replicating member functions. Instead of replicating in a sense, writing the same things in again and again in several different classes, I try to place it in one level and access the information. Okay, so inheritance provides that mechanism for achieving this. So this is a introduction part. Are you clear with this? Now, so let's go with the definition of inheritance. The The capability of a class to derive the properties and characters from another class is called inheritance. This is a definition of inheritance. It's very important. The capability of a class to derive properties and characters from another class is called inheritance. Okay. Now, it is one of the feature of your object-oriented programming. So, what are the features of your object-oriented programming? How many are there? Let me know. Are you there, guys? How many are there? What are those? So many. Okay, good. So I think we gave so many list of things, but among those, mainly we define features of OOPS as in encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. Okay, mainly 4. Okay. So now, inheritance is one among the OOPS concept. Okay, now what is a subclass? The class that inherits properties from another class is called subclass or derived class. Just now I told you. It try to inherit the properties from another class. That class you try to call it as a subclass. And superclass is nothing but a base class. You can also call it as a base class. Now whose properties are inherited by subclass, you call that class as base class. Okay. Now, what is the main advantage of inheritance? Code reusability. That means once you can define a code and you can use it for any number of times and you can create any number of objects. So that is the main use of your inheritance, code reusability. Now, let's start with the coding part. Just see the syntax. Now, if you see, let's take class A, class B. Class A, you call it as a base class, and class B, you call it as a derived class. Now, what is meant by base class? Base class means which will get inherited by your derived class. Okay, derived class try to access the properties of your base class. That means class B try to access the properties of your class A. So, in class B, what it contains? Properties of class A plus B's properties also. Now see the syntax. Now I am trying to define class A and open and close brackets. This define the body of your class. Now class B. Just now I told you, suppose this is a class B and I will try to access inherit the class A. How I can inherit the class A? So this is the syntax. Colon, access specifier followed by base class name. So here one thing you can observe, we place something in square brackets. What it indicates? Square bracket indicates optional value. Access specifiers. What are the access specifiers you are having? Public, private, protected. So you can mention any of the 3. Otherwise, by default, it will be taken as a private. Okay, if you are not mentioning anything, by default, it will be considering it as a private. Okay, what makes the difference and what are those will come across in shortly. Okay, so now, so class A, class B, now this is the way how you will define it. So is it clear what is the structure? Let's go with an example. Now all of you open your Dev C++. Let's go with an example. I'll show you an example so that it will be easy for you. Type along with me, guys. Inheritance example 1 I am giving the name. So the starting part will be the same as include what are the header files, type of string, so now using namespace std, then let's take small example, class base. Okay. Now let me define a method called as void okay, before that I have a public void display. As it related to the base class, I would like to give as a method name as display b, which indicates base class method. Okay. So I would like to just print the statement cout base class method called. Okay. Now class, let me know, are you typing along with me? Yeah, be ready, type along with me and let me know if you are having any doubts. We'll clear it parallelly. Okay. Now class derived. Next, well, let's define a method, so a class called as class derived. Okay, as I told, now it is an inheritance. How I would like to access this base class in your derived class. So what is the syntax? Colon. Now go with your syntax. I'll show you the PPT. Now what is the syntax? Colon. Specify the access specifier A. Okay. Now see here. Now colon, specify the access specifier. Let's take public. Okay. Public base. Now what is the name of your base class? Base. So I gave it as base. Next, one method. Public void display derived. I will give it as D. Okay. Now let me print derived class method called. Fine. Okay. Now I hope you are following what I did. I define a base class. Okay. I define a base class. In that I define a method called as display b. In order to indicate that it is a base class method. Okay, in that I am just printing a statement called base class method called. Okay, and next I am creating a derived class which try to inherit base class, and then I try to define a method called as display d. Here I try to just print a statement called as derived class method called. Now let's create main method. Main. Now I would like to just create an object for your derived class. Derived d. Then I told you, suppose what is the use of inheritance? Using inheritance I can access the base class properties as well as derived class properties. So now That means using these objects, you should be able to access base class method as well as your derived class method. Okay, let's see are we able to access it or not. Display underscore B. Okay. Now D dot display underscore D. Okay. Now return 0. Is it fine? Completed typing. Shall I show the execution? Now, what should be our output? What should be our expected output? Yes. Are we getting the actual output the same? See here, compile and run. See here, I got base class method called, derived class method called. Is it fine? Now I didn't give endl, so I got in same line. So see here, you can see base class method called, derived class method called. So this is the use of your inheritance. Okay. Now see, I told you. Now you can observe clearly for which class I created the object. For derived class. You can see here. For second level of class, I created an object. By using the second level, I try to access base class as well as derived class. What now? Chart box not placed. Chart. Oh no, I can able to see your chart. Oh. Then I am able to see your messages. Okay, what you have typed? I don't know. I think it might be a technical problem. Just try to refresh it. You might get if that option is available. Okay, see guys, 1 minute. Now, shall I show you? I told you this is a line which makes this display method B, display underscore B will be accessed in your derived class. Okay. Suppose if I try to remove this, what happens? I try to remove colon public base. If I try to remove this, what happens? Can I know? Answer from you. I try to remove this and remaining will be same. So what I will get? Yes. What type of error you will get? Sure, it will show an error. It will raise the error. So what type of error you will get? Class is not inheritance. Let's see. So I am removing this. You can't access this method. We'll get an error like that. See what you got? Class derived has no member named display underscore b. Okay, that means what it is doing now. You should be clear. Okay, now this method is related to your base class. Using inheritance, what I am trying to do, I try to make that method accessible in your derived class so that you are able to access with the help of derived class object. Okay, so now when I try to remove this inheritance, what is the error it is showing? Are you able to follow this? Now let me explain you, because these are the basics, very important. Now what we try to do in base class, I try to have a method called as display underscore b. Okay, in derived class I have a method called as display underscore b. Okay, suppose if I don't worry, if till now just I am having two classes. Okay, what I am showing like that. Okay, so base contains display underscore b. Now if I create an object for my base, I can access only display underscore b. If I create an object for d, I can access only display underscore d. Now what I try to do, I try to inherit. Suppose if I try to inherit, then what I can do in derived class, that means in derived class along with d, I can also access display underscore b. Okay, if not, you can't access this. You can access only d, you cannot access b. Is it fine? So this is the thing what it is going to happen. Suppose if you are not inheriting and try to still access base class method, then you try to raise an error like there is no such member like display underscore b, because it is related to your base class, not related to your derived class. Okay, so it is showing the same. Class derived has no member named display underscore b. Hope you are following. So public derived, this public base. That's it. Okay, ma'am. All you have executed this. So let's have little more modification to this if you have followed, and I'll show you. Guys, have you all followed? Let me know if you're having any doubts. Please post it in the chat box. Hey, are you sleeping? Had your lunch or are you sleeping? Only few replies. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, Azam. Don't sleep. I hope our C++ class is during the lunch hour. Hope you do the lunch before itself and sit for the class with full of energy. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Now, this is an example, practical example I would like to give. See here. Let's take this is a base class. Like just I can have like person. I told you. What is the definition while giving? I told you the similar things. I mean, I would like to define a student, a teacher, a doctor. Each and everything. I mean, each and every person. I mean, he is nothing but a role. Yes, it will be called Arun. We'll come across the constructor concept and in which order, what is the way, everything I'll explain you in detail. Don't worry. Okay. So, see here. As this is the first class of your inheritance, I am not getting into the constructors. We'll come across each and everything. Okay. Now see here. I told you, still if anybody not clear. So student, teacher, doctor. Each and every individual is nothing but a person. He might be having some whole set of properties. He can have a name, age and gender, a student. Along with that, he might be having a program, study year and some properties like study and a held exam. Similarly, teacher, doctor. So similar things I am all student, I mean either student, teacher or doctor, each member will be a person. So I am defining a archetype or a base class, we call it as a person, and defining the similar properties in it, and I try to define the specialized things in the next level so that I can try to access the person information within the next level. Okay, suppose when student try to inherit person, then he can access the properties of your person's class, and along with that he can access the properties of your student. Similarly, when I try to create an object for your teacher, and suppose a teacher is inheriting the person, a teacher can be a combination of person's behavior and teacher's behavior. Okay. Similarly, the doctor, he can have person's information and doctor's information. So this is where the inheritance plays a major role. This is only a single level, that means only one base class and one derived class we define. So this you call it as a single level inheritance. So like that you are having several types of inheritances. We'll come across the different types. Okay. Now see here. These are the various types of inheritances. Single, hierarchical, multi-level, hybrid, multiple. So here is the figures for each and everything. We'll come across the examples for each and everything. Okay. Single level. That means only one base class and one derived class. I told you, base class is also called it as superclass, and derived class is also called it as subclass. So superclass or base class, subclass or derived class. So only one superclass will be there and one subclass will be there. Only one level. So that you call it as a single inheritance. Okay. Now, hierarchical inheritance. That means only one base class and you can have any number of subclasses. That means you can have any number of derived class per single base class. That you call it as a hierarchical inheritance. Okay, just now the previous example which I showed, that you can take it as an example for your hierarchical inheritance. And suppose if I am not considering teacher and doctor, only student and person you are trying to link, then this itself I can take it as a single inheritance. Okay. So hierarchical, and next one is multi-level. Multi-level means one more level is added. One base class, next you are having derived class for your base class, and one more derived class. Now class 1 will be class 1 will act as base class for your class 2 and derived class for your super class. Are you following, guys? This class 1 will serve the two roles. It will be a derived class for your super class and base class for your subclass 2. Okay, multi-level, that means 2 levels. You can have any number of levels. It is not restricted, only 2 levels you should be having. Based upon the requirement, I can extend the levels and I can go more specific. Okay. Now, what do you mean by a hybrid inheritance? The combination of two or more inheritances, you call it as a hybrid inheritance. Now you split it. Okay, before we get into the hybrid, you go with the multiple. Multiple inheritance is nothing but two base classes or two or more base classes to your derived class. You call it as a multiple inheritance. Actually, this feature is not supported in your Java programming. Only it will be, I mean in C++ we are going to deal with your multiple inheritances. So in Java you are going to support or we try to achieve with the help of your inheritance concept, because it creates some sort of confusion, and we try to, I mean you call it as a diamond problem. Later on we'll try to come across. So base classes, you try to access a derived class from two or more base classes. That is nothing but multiple inheritance. Now what do you mean by hybrid inheritance? Hybrid inheritance is nothing but you try to hybrid. That means two or more types of, it might be a combination of multiple and multi-level inheritance. You call it as a hybrid inheritance. Okay, you can see superclass, subclass 1, subclass 2. Up to here you take. This is a combination of, you can call it as a hierarchical. Okay. Suppose if you take like this, superclass, subclass 1, subclass 3. This is like multi-level inheritance. That means, or if you take only up to here, subclass 1, subclass 2, subclass 3. It is like multiple inheritance. Two or more types of inheritances comes under the hybrid inheritance. Okay. So now, actually, here occurs the diamond problem when subclass 3 try to access the properties of your superclass. In which order you try to access? You are having two different ways. This you call it as a diamond problem. Okay? How you try to overcome this, everything will come across in future classes. Types of inheritance. Okay. Now, this is an example program. What I would like to show you. So, what I would like to know what is going in this program. The explanation I would like you have to go through this and give me in the chat box. Come. All of you refer to this program. I already explained this single inheritance. This is an example. I would like to know from you people what is going in this program and what will be the output. I'll give 2 minutes. I would like to know the answer from you. What is the logical content happening within this program? I would like to know the answer from you. Guys, don't worry about the opening and closing bracket. It doesn't contain any errors. Everything is correct. Yes. Just go with the logic. S shuttle actually derived value is private, but you try to access the value within the class itself. I am not trying to access outside the class. Within the class, the private value is accessible, so it doesn't contain any error. Yeah, actually the program I gave it with neat explanation. The code itself contains a neat explanation. Yes guys, those who have given. Yes, sum is defined inside derived class only. You can see the open and close brackets, okay? Okay, good. Those who gave answers all gave the right one. So now, yes. So we try to access the base class value. We try to do the sum of two values. One value we try to access from the base class and other value from your base class, derived class. And we try to access the values in your sum method and print the result. That's all. Okay. Now, one minute. Okay. So still, if anybody is not clear with the example, I would like to show you the execution. Okay. So now, do you want me to show the same one? Okay, I will show you the same instead of typing. Okay, because it doesn't contain any errors. So this is a program, right? Just I'm running it. Enter an integer value of your base class. I'm giving it as 5. Enter an integer value of derived class 10. The sum of two integer values 15. Okay. So now you can see in base class within public itself I declared a variable and a method. Here just I am giving a print statement, enter integer value of base class, read the value. Okay. And in derived class we try to inherit base class using this statement, and then within the derived class itself I try to calculate. So I am making this variable as private. That means if I am not giving any access specifier, then by default it will take it as private. So int derived value, defining a variable and method in order to read the value, and defining one more method in order to have a calculation of sum. of two values. As you are dealing with inheritance, now you can access base value and derived value. Okay, base value, derived value. Now, in main, what I try to do, I create a derived class object and I should give the input, yes or no. Input is required for your base class value. So, access this method, base input and derived input. So, give it as d dot base input, d dot derived input, and I would like to calculate the sum, d dot sum. So, the order of sequence of your execution follows. Hope you are clear up to here. So, now I would like to do some modification to my data and I would like to know what. So, this one. All of you observe line number 4. Just now it is public. Okay. I would like to remove public. I would like to give private. If I don't give anything also, it doesn't make any difference. That means by default it will be private. Okay. Instead of public, if I give private, then what happens? Will you get the same output? No. Give me no. Venkatam Maheshwara. No. Anybody with S? Error? Will I get the same sum of two numbers? I don't expect an error. Okay. See here. It will be the same. Now, base is inaccessible. Now, why you are getting this? Base is inaccessible. Now, you told me an error, but related to what you are getting? Okay, before you see this error, I would like to close. Okay. Now, okay. Now, okay, you are saying it as an error, but is it related to your derived class or is it related to your main method? You saw the errors also, but what the question I would like to ask is a little different. Is it related to your derived or main method? Yeah, you got for your main method, okay? Because base you try to access in your main, you got error. So let me comment, okay? Comment this line. Is it the same? Okay. Main method you are saying, okay, before we get into this. Main method you told me. So is it related to 31st line or which line? First itself. Okay, if I comment 31st, will that error will get removed? Okay, let me check it out. If I get error, let me see. Okay. Okay. Is the error removed? Yes. So, but what is the problem you are facing? 5. Now, is this called? Is the base value got called? Now see here. Now what's happening with this? Private base. You are making it as a private base so that it cannot be outside the derived class. You cannot access the. Now what is happening here? Now look at here properly. Here it is public up to here. That means public variable and method. Both are public itself. Okay. In derived class, I try to inherit with the help of private. When I try to inherit, then what happens? These values which I declared as private for your base class, when comes to your derived class next level, this will become as private. Private means local to your method. Local to your class. Sorry, not the method. That means only within this class you can access the base value and base input. Outside the derived class, you can't access either base value or base input. Okay? Private means it is using this keyword, what it is going to happen? These private values are becoming private in your derived class. Okay? Private in your derived class. Now, private indicates in this particular class you can access. So in this class itself I try to access the base value. So it is able to accessible. But I am unable to read the base value because you are not accessing the base input method. Okay, by default the value will get initialized to 0 and it is getting computed. The result is getting computed. Okay, now here, if you see your main method, what it is happening in your derived class, this base input is created as your private, so you can't access it outside. So this line is raising an error. As you people told, if when we combine this. Now error has been removed, and meanwhile as we are unable to access the base input, I am unable to read the base class value. Okay, by default value is getting initialized to your base value and value is computed. Okay, only derived input value I try to read, access, and I am calculating the sum. So here itself you can see one more time. Enter the integer value of derived class. Base value is not asking. Okay. If I give 10, you can see the result. By default, value of your integer type is 0. 0 plus 10, you are getting it as 10. Is it fine? So, now, 1 minute. If I make it as protected, within 2 minutes I will wind up and I will give you a program. You have to do it by yourself. So now if I give it as protected, okay. Now is it no change? So you will not get any error. Sure. See ya. Okay, it will ask derived class and you will print the sum. Okay, now can I uncomment this line? 31st line. If I uncomment this, will I get the error or not? No error. Yes. Akil error will not get. See here. Let's go. Protected. Protected is a special keyword which you will be using for the inheritance. That means in order to access the base values in your derived class, that means if you are creating a member as your protected, the values can be accessed in your derived class. Okay, let's see whether you will get or not. Now see. It will not try to restrict the data. Now, base input. It it will get error. So now, why you are getting the error? It will try to restrict. Why it try to restrict? I told you just now. I told you the what a statement called. It tried to access what is the use of protected statement? It tried to access the base class members in your derived class. So what is the functions of your protected now? Those who told me as yes or no. Why it is showing an error or what it is going to happen? In main, you can't access. It will become protected means only it will make it accessible in your derived class. Outside the derived class, you can't access. Now, actually this protected picture, if we take one more level, tomorrow I will explain in the next class. We will take one more level and I will explain you in detail how this private, protected and public works. Okay. Or with this example, I can tell you one more thing. So at present, just go ahead with this. One more example we'll take and we'll go in depth. So protected, if you declare it as protected, now this data will become protected for your derived class. If you have one more derived class, then you can able to access. But outside the derived classes, within the main or outside it, you can't access it. Okay? Is it fine? So what you will do, you take one more and you try to access the method. Then it will be accessible. Within the derived classes, you can access it. If not, you can't access. Okay, let me show you. I will show you 1 minute. I am creating one more class. Class derived, one more level. Derived 1. Okay. Protected. Now, are you able to see what I did the modification? Observe. Now, let me run first. Somewhere I did the modification. 1 minute. So you can see. So now you can see when you define public. Now see, when you define protected, then what you can see, you can access in the next level of your one. Okay, it's showing another because it is a private. Class derived. 1 minute. Now we have to do the modification related to that. Because derived 1, I have to create the object. Yes, guys. Object. What is the error? Base input is inaccessible. Within the constant 1 minute. Somewhere I did. Okay. Because I have to check with the code. Okay, let's see. Okay, 1 minute. Let's check with the public whether it's getting or not. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you the protected also. But we are running out of time. I have to look at the code and I have to see, do the modifications to that. So now, in the next class, I will tell you. Okay, well, don't worry, we'll come across a combination of things. I will explain you everything. So now see here, base, derived, and next level. You can have any number of things, but only thing you have to remember, now if it is a private, then you can't access it outside it. Suppose if it is a protected, then you can access it in your derived classes, and if it is public, then you can access it anywhere. So here it's a chart you are having. In the next classes, I will show you and explain you detail about regarding this with the example. Don't worry. So till now, so apart from public, private, protected, just having a combination of things. Remaining anything you are having any doubts, let me know. I will enable a practice exercise. You practice means you a program, you do it. And let me know if you can start the program inheritance 1. Okay, all of you go through the question and let me know, do you have any, is the question? Let me know, is it clear or do you have any doubts regarding the question or today's class? Access specifiers, a combination, we'll discuss in the next class, continuation class, because it requires a little more time. Is the question clear? Are you able to do? Whatever the output while you are printing, it has to be matched with your sample input and output. Okay, you people are busy in doing. I'm not receiving any replies from you. Okay,